Hello, my name is Eamon McGowan, and I am a full-time ESL instructor here at WakeTech CCR. And this is a TESOL 2024 takeaway on lesson planning with AI. So let's look at how Chat-GPT or another chatbot, such as Claude, can help us in our lesson planning. Again, this is a takeaway from the TESOL 2024 conference in Tampa. And please note, this is merely a suggestion. And as always, whatever an AI bot provides you, please use your critical thinking skills to scrutinize, analyze, and adapt to best meet the needs of our students. AI does and will make mistakes, and it is our responsibility to find those mistakes and make adjustments. But ultimately, by using ChatGPT to help with some of your lesson planning, it could hopefully reduce your workload so you can focus more on your interactions with students and providing feedback. And it should be able to elevate your lesson plan because you'll have time to analyze and improve because you'll be spending less time on the upfront part of creating a lesson. So I already put together a prompt based on what I learned at the TESOL conference. Let's read. You are an expert ESL teacher at an adult education program that focuses on college and career readiness. As you can see, you are telling the chatbot exactly who it is, an ESL teacher, and giving it some context, college and career readiness. Let's continue. Design a 90-minute lesson plan for an online class on the present perfect continuous for adult English language learners at the intermediate proficiency level. Give specific information like the time limit, the delivery format, the grammar topic, and the level of the students. You will need to play around a little bit with how you best want to phrase that. You could focus in on the NRS standards. You could think about the Common European Framework. You could focus on high intermediate, low intermediate, beginning. Use some time to play around with that. You have the time because ChatGPT does this so quickly, and see what's best for you and your students. Let's continue. Focus on learning objectives to include as evidenced by. We want to see learning objectives in every lesson at WakeTech. The lesson should be focused on a patient-doctor interaction. Again, give specific information and directions in which the patient needs to discuss symptoms using the present perfect continuous. And include reading, writing, speaking, and listening, those 4 skills that we like to see in all of our lessons. And finally, tell your chatbot how you want this to look, the formatting. Format your response in a table with columns for lesson objectives, materials, procedures, timing, and assessments. Let's go ahead and click on enter and see the magic happen. So you can see we're getting our columns as requested. You can see here a potential material is that short dialogue script. That could be something you already have in Ventures or Standout or another resource of yours. You could also include that as an attachment when you are giving the prompt to your chatbot and say, please incorporate the attached dialogue. You can see we have timing, which of course you can adjust based on our students. And as you go through, we are seeing those 4 skills, seeing our objectives, and seeing some formative assessments that we can do. Now, one thing that you do see here is some example role play activities, because in the sample prompt that I provided, we did say this should be focused on a patient-doctor interaction. We could have said role play, but luckily in this case, Chat-GPT did that for us. One thing that is missing, and it's not Chat-GPT's fault, it's our fault because we didn't include that, are the English Language Proficiency Standards, or ELPS. I left them off because I feel like as the instructor, this might be something you want to apply, and there might be specific ELPS that you're focused in on, but you could definitely include that in the prompt and include which ELPS you would like to see. ChatGPT will recognize the ELPS if you spell it out for it. Or you could ask ChatGPT to analyze an attachment of a PowerPoint you have or a reading you have and ask it to make suggestions on which ELPS. And then you can go from there with your analysis and potential adaptation. So as you can see here, we developed this lesson plan pretty quickly. Now you can add in some more information if you like. You can adjust if you see something you don't like. For example, maybe this is for a sub and you want to include more specific instructions. So I'm going to put here in a new prompt, include step-by-step procedures. Now, every time ChatGPT gives you a response, it's going to be different. So if you compare this lesson to the last one, you're going to see some differences, mostly in word choice, but please keep that in mind. Unless you are specifically directing it to use the exact same information, but just add those procedures, it will generate some new content. So you can see here we added some additional steps to make the process maybe a little bit easier for a sub, right? We got steps that it did for us, as you can see here. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You could also ask ChatGPT to create a assessment that you could use at the end of class on the present perfect continuous using this topic of doctor-patient relations. For example, we could have here create a short 10 or maybe 5 question assessment on the present perfect continuous using the doctor-patient interaction as context. We could add some more information here, but let's go ahead and submit. Let's just see what Chat-GPT comes up with. This is interesting. It's coming up with some different types of assessments you could use. So one thing you could do here is pick one of these because maybe your time is limited, so you want to do a fill in the blank, or perhaps you want to do an error correction. But you can see here you got some options. And you can see this is the potential risk of not being more specific in your assessment. So for example, we could say here, make the questions fill in the blank and include statements and questions. So here's another example, and you can see here we have some interactions. We have the base form verb, and students have to conjugate those verbs in the proper manner, and you see we have an answer key as well. Let's look at one other example that was adapted from the 2024 TESOL convention. Here is a prompt which you are welcome to use and adapt. And you'll see some similarities to the prompt that we used earlier in terms of telling the chatbot exactly who it is. You can see timing. You can see on this one a small difference, which is we included 2 ELPs as well. Let's look at the response, which is just a screenshot of the top part of it. But you can see here all the key elements we saw in the last response, but some differences as well. You can see here we have a breakdown of formative and summative assessment. We have a more traditional ESL lesson plan with presentation and guided practice, for example. And another takeaway from TESOL is they did provide us with a template that we can use when creating a prompt for lesson plans. The yellow parts is something you would have to fill in based on your lesson. And the blue parts is what they gave us as a suggestion. You'll see some differences between what I showed you earlier. And feel free to compare and contrast, use what you like, and adapt as necessary. Don't forget to analyze each response for appropriateness. Second, adapt all responses to best meet the needs of students and the program. 3, ask the chatbot to make adjustments if necessary. And finally, check accuracy of the information presented because, as I mentioned earlier, AI will give you false information at times, and it's our job to detect it. Thank you for your time. I hope this session was informative to you. Good luck.